Welcome to the Private Equity Show with Ace Chapman. With 20 years experience, Ace discusses own firms, recent activities, target industries, desired acquisition profiles, closing pitches, and more. Learn from other successful industry leaders and get the behind-the-scenes candid details about private equity funds, how they work, how they thrive, and how you can run one too. And now your host, Ace Chapman.
Hey. All right. So one of the things we've been pushing clients hard on is taking advantage of this SBA program. So I wanted to do a video where I break down why it's something that you want to take advantage of, how it works, and also just some examples of why this is such a big deal. So if you haven't already heard, I mean, it's been widely reported, but the U.S. government is basically unleashing a tsunami of money at this problem. It's made up that just the first one they're already planning. I mean, pretty much everybody sees that there's going to be multiple of these, but this first one is really interesting for small businesses. The whole bill is $2 trillion. Just to put that number, because one of the things I realize is sometimes you talk about these big numbers, and even going back to the video I did on the debt. It just when you're talking big numbers, people don't have a concept for trillions of dollars and hundreds of billions of dollars, or even $1 billion. It's difficult to put that in context. So to put 2 trillion in context, it's more than the total amount that we spent on 18 years of war in both Afghanistan and Iraq. It's 3 times the size of the bailout from 2008, which I think does make a lot of sense. And it basically sees all the corporate and individual tax revenue that the IRS received last year. And, I'm always talking to you guys about every country that you look at. I'm doing a series right now where I'm talking about how I look at the countries that I want to invest in and picking those out. And one thing is looking at it like a company, and that's probably what I'm going to get into in the next video. But looking at looking at a country like you would a company, when you see a company that is has a certain amount of income and then they're taking on tremendous amounts of debt based on that income. It's just what you want to look at. It's just a company. So there's a certain amount of revenue. I think when we think about the government, we think about it as this thing that's immune to normal economic rules. But that's something that I think is important. Is of all the corporate tax, everything that was received in last year's IRS collections, this is bigger than that. So something interesting. Bottom line is, we all know we're living in these kind of very unprecedented times. But the thing that I want to focus on is that out of this, it's 800 pages, which is unreal, the bill itself. The thing that's important to us is 350 billion of it. And 350 billion went direct to the Small Business Administration. And again, this is unprecedented, and one of the things to understand about the Small Business Administration is that this was like this little side organization when it was started. It's like, we'll help some small businesses. It's really kind of a PR thing. It's not this big agency. When you think about federal agencies, the small SBA is just considered very, very tiny. This bill turns it into a very big agency. And if you know anything about the government, it's a lot tougher to make agencies smaller. They tend to only get bigger and bigger and bigger. They're able to afford really great lobbyists. It becomes very difficult to make them smaller. They tend to only get bigger. And this, just to give you some examples of how big this is, the funding that this gives the SBA for this year is bigger than the Army and the Navy's budgets combined. Another thing, it's 8 times the size. If you just take the Marine Corps loan, it's 8 times their budget for the year. Now, obviously, this is a one-time thing, but I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the SBA in the future. Another thing that's interesting is it's more than the whole capitalization of Walmart. So I want to give you those examples just so you get an idea as we talk about this of what a big deal this is. So I'm sure you get the idea. SBA just became one of the biggest organizations in the world, like not just in the US, but like this is now one of the biggest organizations in the world. And in normal times, the SBA's mission is to help startups and small businesses obtain bank loans. It's not one of the things that people mistake is that SBA gives out loans. So that their job is to kind of serve as the insurance for those loans and encourage banks to give out more loans because it's usually pretty difficult for a startup to borrow money from a bank. Banks don't want to give that money out. It's too risky. So the SBA comes in and says, hey, you know, SBA, their role is to provide a guarantee for that loan. And what they're doing is saying, listen, if for whatever reason the business fails and the person doesn't pay you back, the federal government, and remember, this is you and me, we will make up the difference, which is, again, a really great program. And I only talk about it being me and you is, again, for understanding the semantics, like to use the word like, oh, the government, we think of that as this other separate thing. Like they have no money, they have no power, they have nothing without us generating that money and then paying our portions in, which is, again, for a program like this, I think it's really great. So this guarantee doesn't make the small business a risk-free loan for the bank, and this is important. So sometimes people might get annoyed if they understand how it works. Like, okay, well, the SBA is going to guarantee this. Why aren't you just give me the money? But there's all these different covenants and things, and it's one of the headaches around even getting access to the money right now is that the banks don't know all of the details, and banks know how things go with the federal government. It's like, oh, well, no, we're not going to cover it based on this. We're not going to do that. And so it's more complicated than just, oh, if you give a loan to a small business, then we're going to guarantee it. I did the video yesterday where I talked about a little bit about covenants. And so, it's the same thing, even in a deal like this. But typically, in order to receive an SBA guarantee, the business owner has to provide their own personal guarantee to the bank and to the government. Really, the government's going to be able to come after that person. If they default, the government can seize their assets. It's one of the downsides that I've talked about before. One of the reasons that I don't promote SBA loans is that these things are risky. Like every one of these businesses is very risky, and so to put up all of your assets in exchange for a loan on a business that we know has a higher chance of going out of business and succeeding doesn't make a lot of sense. But that's why this whole thing is exciting. That's how the whole thing normally works, and obviously we're in unprecedented times. Things aren't normal, so for the first time ever the government said, hey, we can give these loans and no personal guarantee is going to be required. And this is a nuance that I hadn't written. One of the reasons I really didn't make a video about this, that going into detail for, just because a lot of people are talking about it, everybody knows about it. But this is the clause that makes this a huge deal. Is that, and there are two. This is the number one, though. Number one is that there is no personal guarantee required, and that the government shall have no recourse. These are the exact words from and out of that 800-page document. The exact words that shall have no recourse against any individual shareholder, any individual member, or any partner for non-payment. That, my friends, is a rare and beautiful thing. Secondly, the second most important clause in this is that no collateral shall be required. So not only do you not have a personal guarantee that you're giving, but you also don't have to even put up assets that they can put a lien against. So this is a very, very big deal. The only real requirement that's kind of a hard, fast rule is that the business has to have have less than 500 employees, because this is supposed to be for small businesses. So how much money can you get with this particular? And there are other things that are in here, but this one is something that everybody needs to be doing. Is you can go out and get one of these loans for up to 2.5 times the payroll cost over the last 12 months. Now, in your business, you want to do this. Like you should be doing this. Even, I'm talking to past clients that I did deals years ago. Everybody should be applying for these in the business that you acquired, because there's just no reason not to. Now, the other reason I'm making the video here is that there's a big opportunity, and I was just talking to Sam about this, but there's a big opportunity to go out, buy a business that has a big expense for the last year, really just over the last 12 months. So they have a big expense when it comes to those employees, and businesses are so hungry right now. You can really get deals for no money down. I wouldn't close on a business right now. I would wait and just see how things are going to pan out. There's been a new surprise at every corner right now. But the cool thing is the payment is based on what the business seller would have been paying themselves, what all of the other employees were paid. You can multiply that by 2.5 times and almost do a cash out. It's almost like if you're familiar with real estate deals where you do a cash out refi. So you get to put that money in your bank, you get the business. I would wait until we're getting back to the time where it's back in business. And that money can really just sit in the bank. So if you time it right, that could be freed up cash if you time it so you're closing. And typically, even if you start a deal now, you're going through due diligence, you're putting together everything that you need in financing to get the deal done. You're talking 60 days minimum, typical 90 days. So that means that even if you did start a deal today, it would be really normal that you're going to be 90 days out from closing that. And then even if at that point things aren't getting better, you can just postpone it from that point on. This is a big, big opportunity. I want to make sure you guys were aware of it. I hope that all of you have been safe and also taking advantage and hustling, because there are going to be some unprecedented opportunities ahead. If you haven't subscribed, be sure to subscribe below. Be sure to check out the Private Equity Show channel. I have some new things that are coming there. And if you're somebody who's interested in buying businesses or starting your own private equity fund, be sure to check out acechapman.com.